with our lives and our souls and our eternities and our destinies. Just trust me and follow me. And once we walk through Jesus, suddenly we get reconnected to God and we find life. For those of you that experienced this, do you remember the moment when this became clear to you that you would somehow become reconnected with God and life? The shame is gone, and instead there is a self-assurance of who you are and why you exist. And the fears are gone, and instead there's a sense of security. And the animosity has been replaced by a genuine love for other people, even enemies. And there's no longer a sense of desperation and frustration. There is a wisdom as we are guided skillfully through life, and everything just begins to work. It's not perfect, there are challenges, but I am alive. That's God's answer. You know what's amazing? I wish that were the end of the story. Connected to God, yeah, everything's perfect, yeah! And not. I got all sorts of bad news today, don't I? Because as soon as we get reconnected with God, we then are faced with two big challenges. The first big challenge I put this way: we have to maintain or remain vitally connected to God. It kind of works like this. When we get through that wall through Jesus and we get connected to God, it's like we're attached to a pipeline that puts life right into our souls. But here's what happens. There are forces that want to grab you and rip you away from that pipeline. Now, they can't get you back on the other side of the wall. Once you cross through, you get to live on that side. But something can happen to the vital connection where we're around them and all that stuff is taken care of. But I don't have that vital connection where the life of God is being pumped into me. When I was in high school, we used to play a kind of a warped version of Capture the Flag. And in the middle of no man's land where anybody could get anybody if you were strong enough to drag them to the other side, we had this one pole as a flagpole. And if you were touching that flagpole, you were safe and nobody could get you. But the way we play the game is this. If somebody could grab you and rip you off that pole, you were caught. And man, there people would be wrapping their arms and legs around that pole, and some guy would grab you and try to pull you off, and he'd get out, and there'd be a bunch of guys that grabbing arms and legs, trying to pull you off that pole. You're fighting for all you're worth. And usually enough people gang up on you, you just got ripped off. And you got drugged to jail. And it's like when we get through that wall through Jesus and we become vitally connected to the pipeline of God that pours life into our souls, it's like all of a sudden the next thing we know, it's like, oh man, things are grabbing me, trying to pull me away. And it's like we have to grab onto that pipeline and say, I'm going to stay holding on. See, the first thing that'll try to pull you away is temptation. You know, hello, wouldn't you like to do this? Oh, this would feel so good. Why don't you live for this? Why don't you try that? Why don't you go here and do that? Why don't you just give in to this thing you feel? Come on. And that temptation can be so long, it pulls us off that pipeline. And the other thing that does is just the pressures of life. Life can be so hard and so complicated and so difficult, and there are so many things going on, and we become disoriented and things don't go right, and before long, the pressure just seems to pull us away from that pipeline of God, and we're not maintaining a vital connection, we're not in sync, we're not openly communicating and just really living with each other. And when that happens and we become disconnected, we might be on the good side of the wall, but all the things people feel on the other side of the wall, we start feeling again too. And so we have this challenge to remain vitally connected. Jesus put it this way: you remain in me as I remain in you. You know what he was saying? He was saying, you just hang on. Keep your heart open. Stay in sync. Stay focused. Talk to me. Listen to me. Keep your heart tender. Do the things I ask you to do. Just remain in me. Just hang on. Nothing is so strong it'll pull you away. You always choose to let go. If you get tired or tempted. But you could hang on, just hang on, and let me keep pumping life into you. That's the first challenge. And the second challenge I would put this way is to create a culture of connection. Because you know what happens when we go on the good side of the wall, and we've got this vital connection, and our souls are alive? is we get so enamored with the joys of being connected that we forget about the people who are still disconnected. God put this incredible story in the Bible. And I think he put it in there primarily so that people who have found a connection wouldn't get so enamored with the joy of being connected that they forget about the disconnected. The story is found in the book of 2 Kings. It kind of begins in chapter 6. Here's the backstory. There's a city, and these are like city-states, right? It was called Samaria. And they were being besieged, which means attacked by another army, the Arameans. And this was a much more powerful army. And they came marching with far more men, far more chariots, far more spears, far more swords. And they surrounded the city. And they, at that point, Samaria knew we are in serious trouble. We are massively outmatched. But what the invading army did is it said, this is what happened. This was warfare strategy. Rather than attacking the city, because it's a fortress, it's still going to take work. We're going to lose a bunch of people. It'll mess stuff up in there that we'd like to take. So you know what they do? They just camp around the city and wait. Because they didn't grow food in the city. And sooner or later, food runs out. People begin to starve. Then they get desperate, and then they surrender. So they're just waiting. Every day, they get up, they just wait. Chill. Kill some time. There's Samaria. Everybody inside shut in. Food runs out. It got so bad, literally, that to buy the head of a donkey for food would cost a year's wages. That's how bad the famine was. You know how bad it got? There were mothers who began to eat their children. Now, understand there are days that sounds like a good idea. Get that. But these were like really young children. That's how bad it got. How desperate it was. And there happened to be 4 lepers. And you have to understand not just the disease, but the culture. Because leprosy where, basically your flesh began to rot and peel off, and it was pretty ugly and nasty. And back then there was absolutely no known cure for it. If anybody had leprosy, they couldn't be a part of the community. So they couldn't really live in the city, but the army was out there. They couldn't really live out there. And so they basically just huddled around the gate and were left by themselves. And finally the lepers are going, okay, look. Nobody will take us in the city. They'll kill us. And besides, there's famine there. And the army out there, what's the worst that can happen if we go and surrender? The worst that can happen is they kill us. And right now, dying is not a bad option. But maybe they'll have mercy and they'll give us food. So, as the sun is going down, these 4 lepers leave the city and they're making their way to the army. He's going, we surrender. They went at night so the other army might not know they were lepers and just execute them on the spot because they didn't want leprosy. So they sneak over, to this one section of this huge army. And their tents are there, and their food is there, and their gold is there, and their silver is there, and their clothes are there, and all the people are gone. It's vacated. Behind the scenes, what God had done is he had created something so that every one of the invading army heard a sound as though an even bigger army was all riding over the surrounding hillsides in horses and chariots. And when they heard it, they instantly thought, oh no, somehow the Samaritans got a word to the Egyptians, which is even a bigger army than us, to come and help them and annihilate us. Let's get out of here. And they fled for their lives. And they left everything behind.